Today is Friday, June 26, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The House passes DC Statehood bill the first time in history. We'll give you all of the details. Yesterday, they passed the George Floyd Act. Attorney Ben Crump will join us to discuss that. Donald Trump is trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. We'll talk with a doctor about what a disaster that would be in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic. There are a number of Republicans pushing back against Donald Trump. We'll show you the ads that they are hitting him hard. Plus, we'll discuss the need for oversight of the Payroll Protection Program with the president of the National Bar Association. Plus, actress Aunjanue Ellis joins us to talk about the Confederate flag could very well be coming down off the state flag of Mississippi. Boy, wait till we have a conversation with her. Plus, singer, songwriter, my girl, Terry Ellis. The show intro, the song? Yeah, that's her and Cindy Heron. They saying that. She'll be here to tell you about her new song, Angry Woman, dedicated to the folks protesting all across the country. Plus, Comedian Dulo is on the show. We're going to tell you about a new deal he's doing. Y'all, it's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Folks, it was huge news last night after the House. All Democrats, with 3 Republicans voting with them, passed the George Floyd Act. Of course, that is all about police reform. That's what the act is focused on. Of course, it was led by the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, this took place after, after Democrats scuttled the bill in the United States Senate. Now the question is, will the U.S. Senate take up this bill? Will they try to work on it, go to a conference? All of those things we'll see. Yesterday, though, folks, there were some great speeches on the floor yesterday, and this was one by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Check this out. All right, we'll try to figure that out, what's going on here. So we're going to try that again, folks. We can get this audio here of Ilhan Omar. Just it's a really great speech as she laid out in terms of why this bill is important. So let's see if we can try it now. Go ahead, guys. All right, we're trying to get it to, let's see if we can get it going. All right, guys. So I'll play it in a second. Let's go to my guest, Ben Crump, of course, attorney for the George Floyd family. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. This bill is really important because what the Democrats wanted to do is they want to ensure that 3 things took place. First of all, you had the outlawing of chokeholds, no-knock warrants. Then also you had, of course, getting rid of qualified immunity. That is something that they did not want in the Senate bill. You had Tim Scott, who made it perfectly clear that that was not going to be the case. Well, that's why you sort of had this back and forth going on. So we're trying to sit here, and so we're having just some slight issues here. Okay, so let me see if I can get this going now, folks. And so just give me 1 second, pulling this up. Here is Ayanna Presley of Massachusetts. Go to her first.
That has been robbed of a child. On behalf of every family member that has been forced to see their loved one lynched on national television, driving while black, jogging while black, sleeping while black, we have been criminalized for the very way we show up in the world. Under the harsh gaze of far too many, my black body is seen as a threat, always considered armed. Centuries of institutionalized oppression will not be undone overnight, for racism in America is as structural as the marble pillars of this very institution. With the power of the pen, we must legislate accountability, dismantle these systems, and move in the direction of justice and healing. The Justice and Policing Act is a critical step forward, and I applaud the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus. But our work is unfinished. There is a rallying cry in communities across the nation. Black Lives Matter is a mandate from the people. It's time. Pay us what you owe us. Our black skin is not a crime. It is the beautiful robe of nation builders. Thank you. I yield.
That was Ayanna Pressley speaking right there, and so what I want to do right now is I want to see if I can pull up the clip of Congresswoman Omar. Of course, she represents the particular district where George Floyd actually was murdered by the police. Gave a really powerful speech again on the floor, and so that's what we want to be able to play for you just a second. Let's see if I can go ahead and get this. There's an issue with the video on her Twitter page, and so that's what the problem is, and so we'll try to get that straight. Let's bring in my panel right now. I want to bring them in to talk about this story, but also another big issue, that is, of course, statehood in D.C. Teresa Lundy, principal founder of TML Communications, Derek Holley, president, Reaching America political analyst, and also Rob Richardson, host of Disruption Now podcast. 3 Republicans join Democrats in voting for that particular bill, the George Floyd bill, and the families of victims. They endorsed that bill, the families of Tamir Rice and others. What's interesting, Rob, is to watch Republicans want to make the whole focus, Democrats are disrespecting Senator Tim Scott, as opposed to representing the interests of the families who actually had folks killed by cops.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to focus on the one, of course, African-American senator that they have, and they put him in charge of it not to actually get it done, not because he's a black man, but because they're attempting to, seems like, block real reform. Because I don't understand their argument. As Republicans, don't they believe in small government? Don't they believe in accountability? Isn't that what getting rid of qualified immunity will do? So why is it that they believe in all these principles, but when it applies to helping African Americans and making sure that police have some accountability, suddenly none of those principles applies? Like, no more small government. We need to have full protection, and government needs to do whatever it can. It can run over people's rights. I mean, I want consistency. If you believe in small government, show me small government, do it across the board. Otherwise, you have no principles, and you should just move out the way.
All right, let's go to Teresa. Teresa? Teresa, I think you're on mute. Need you to unmute yourself.
Am I live?
Now you on.
Sorry about that. I agree with those sentiments in its entirety. I think there is another bigger issue where when we're talking about African American leadership and what the Republicans could have brought to the table, I think the only thing they brought to the table was Senator Tim Scott and his ability to be, one, an African American male, and two, also just bring across this George Floyd situation to the forefront. I think there could have been more senators backing him on this, not in silence, but in bold. But it also speaks to the tone of the entire Senate and how their lack of unity on this issue really does also show how big their response is. Because we look at other legislative pieces that they've backed, they've made sure that they were standing in attention with everybody else. But I think on this specific issue, they allowed Tim Scott to be out there alone. And I just think it's just telling of what their agenda really is.
But here's the deal, Derek. Okay, fine. They didn't agree with Senator Tim Scott. But this whole play by Kevin McCarthy and others, they didn't. They did this because they kept calling Token, the black guy. I'm like, don't try to sit here and pimp this game. Democrats simply said the bill had to have qualified immunity, no chokeholds, had to have no knock warrants. Senator Tim Scott's bill did not address qualified immunity. Okay, they don't agree with it.
That's not true. That's not true. His bill did address all three of those issues.
Did it get rid of it?
The difference in his bill was in the Senate was they were offering it as incentives. Those three initiatives that you just mentioned, they were offered as incentives for the police departments If they went ahead and did and implemented these policies, then they would be incentivized with more money from the federal government. And this is not the first time that something like this has gone on, because they did the same thing when they changed the legal drinking age from 18 to 21. They incentivized the states to move forward with money. The same thing they did with the seatbelt law. When they ordered everybody to wear the seatbelt, they incentivized the states to do that.
But here's the deal. But Derek, so what you're saying is that
the same thing with this.
Derek, so what you're saying is that the Democratic bill completely outlawed it. The Senate bill incentivized it.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So
the thing about it is, Roland, just because they outlaw it, can I finish, please? Just because they outlaw it does not mean the guys that they're going to implement it. Because right now, many of the police departments right now have outlawed the chokehold.
No. Hold up. Again, if it becomes federal law to outlaw, then you do it. You've now just broken federal law. Second, the point about qualified immunity. If one bill incentivizes you to, and the other one completely outlaws it, the Democrats are basically saying is, we're not going to give y'all more money to actually get rid of it. That's a major point of difference.
Yeah.
That's not a major point of difference.
It is.
How's that not?
It's not.
How is it not a major point of difference that when you have one side that's saying we're going to work to give you more money if you don't do it? Hold on. So like
1 second. Hold on. Wait. Derek, finish your point, then Rob. Derek, go.
Like I said, this is not the first time that a major piece of legislation has been put forth to this country by incentivizing states to move forward. And something as big as this right here, just because you outlaw it does not mean that these states are going to abide by it.
Wait a minute, Derek, wait a minute. Derek,
finish my point.
Hold up, Derek. I'm trying to, hold up. I need you to clarify something. So if they incentivized it, can't the state still ignore it?
If you would have the federal funding from it, what's the difference in you outlaw it and ignore it?
Oh my God. Rob, go ahead.
Okay, wait. So Derek, we have had a time when we've done this with policing. It was a 1994 crime bill, and it's a disaster. Incentivizing the policing does not work. It has deadly results. You need to this is not hard. Outlaw chokeholds. Why is that difficult? Outlaw the fact that if you Derek,
he let you finish. Let him finish. Rob, go.
Yeah, if you go and you're an officer and you act recklessly like that officer who killed George Floyd, and you somehow are allowed to get off criminally, you should be sued. You should lose your house. I don't care. You took away somebody's life. Why is anybody defending that? Why is that okay? Like, there's no incentivizing out of that. We need to stop people from murdering people and hold them responsible. Period. End of sentence.
All right, Derek. Okay, Derek, go ahead.
Defending it. I'm not defending it, and I don't think anybody is defending that type of behavior. No one's defending that. At the same time, we're trying to figure out how we move forward to get this piece of legislation passed so that it can protect black people.
I want to bring in Ben Crump right now, Attorney Ben Crump. And Ben, say it again. Mark is on. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I was texting Ben, and he said he was going to be calling in. The thing that I need to deal with on this here, Teresa, and I hear Derek on it, but here's the deal. If you're the Democrats, why should I accept less than? If the House bill outlaws chokeholds, outlaws no-knock warrants, and gets rid of qualified immunity, why do I have to accept Senator Simscott's version? That's the whole point. The House can pass whatever the House wants to pass. The Senate can pass whatever they want to pass. Then they go to conference committee, and there they work it out.
We shouldn't accept, as a Democrat, we shouldn't accept less than what we're due. And it's interesting that we can't get it done on the federal level, but statewide here in Pennsylvania, on Wednesday, we were able to, and this is a Republican ran Senate, we're able to ban the use of chokeholds on an officer's effort to detain an individual. And it will require every municipal police department to adopt the use of force policy publish that policy for the public and train his officers to
That's
that
what I
standard.
said.
And again, so we've been putting, even locally, I think states are doing it, is putting local reforms together and making sure that in the state that they're actually implemented, because we're still having these issues federally that we just can't get it together. So I think everybody is taking, an intricate appeal on their own government locally, and I think unfortunately, we have to continue to do this because who knows if this is going to be a federal mandate?
Yeah, because you need to, and like incentivization, that's not going to work to incentivize. We need to change the culture of policing, period. It has to change, and that only comes through accountability. And you're not going to incentivize the FOP to change their culture. You're only going to do that through accountability. When you can no longer get away with murdering somebody just because you're a police officer, when you can no longer just say, I fear for my life despite the evidence, despite the circumstances, when that's no longer the case, you will see a change. I may not be able to stop somebody from lynching me and feeling that way about it, but I can make it illegal and make it harder, just like Dr. Martin Luther King said. This needs to be harder. Right now, Derek, you said everybody agrees with this. No, everybody doesn't, because they're allowing an environment where this can be in power, where the culture where it's acceptable, and incentivizing is not going to work. And so I want to take the politics out of it. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republican. I want these people to value my life. It's not a political issue to me. This is about humanity, period.
This is real simple for me, Derek.
I agree with you on that, but I also agree with what Teresa said. Teresa said earlier, just now, she just said that in Pennsylvania, like Pennsylvania and many states, they've already outlawed the chokehold in these different. But these guys, these police departments, they haven't implemented the policies. And I agree with Rob, what he said. It's about our lives right now. And both Democrats and Republicans need to put the D's and the R's aside and get this done.
Well, again, this is real simple. The House has passed their bill. The Senate, all Mitch McConnell has to do is call that bill up for consideration, or you know what? Go back to the drawing board with Senator Tim Scott and negotiate a new bill. There's nothing that says you can't negotiate a new bill. Simple as that. So all this drama from the Republicans is like, look, the Democrats passed a bill to fix the Voting Rights Act after the Supreme Court gutted it. It's still sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. So all this back full look, I don't want to hear it. Bottom line is here. Okay, they can whine and they complain. They said this about Senator Tim Scott. He's a great man. He's experienced these issues as well. Fine. Sit down and hammer out a damn bill. Like I said, for everybody who's watching me, I want to explain to y'all again how the process works. The House passes their bill. The Senate can pass their own bill. And then what they then do is they then sit down in a conference committee and they hash out their differences. And if they come up with a new bill that they can agree on, then the House votes again on the new bill. Then the Senate votes again on the new bill. And if it passes both, it goes to the president for signature. That's the process. So all this whining yesterday, why won't y'all debate in public? Why wouldn't you debate it in the Senate Judiciary Committee? That's the point of having a committee. See, that's why I'm just. It was just frankly hilarious, Derek. Just watching all the histrionics and all the pearl clutching, and I'm like, give me a break.
Well, Roland, I don't understand why it has to be that the Democrats, what they put forth is so righteous and the right way to go.
No, here's the deal. Hold on, you didn't hear what I said?
What do you disagree with? What do you disagree with? Getting rid of qualified.
Derek, you didn't hear what I said?
Is priority.
No, Derek, wait. Derek, you didn't hear what I said? Derek, you didn't. Derek, you clearly didn't hear what I said. What I said was the Democrats passed their bill. The Senate,
the Republicans passed theirs.
No, the Republicans didn't pass their bill.
The Senate passed theirs.
No, they did not. The Senate did not pass theirs. They did not. And so what no, they did not. So what I'm saying is the Senate can now, Tim Scott can go back.
Rephrase it. Yes.
No, they didn't. Tim Scott can go back. He can sit down with Senator Harris. He can sit down with Senator Booker. He can sit. As a matter of fact, if I'm Senator Tim Scott, you know what I would say? I would say send it back to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Come up with a new bill And let's see if that one gets passed. But I'm saying all the histrionics yesterday were just laughable as I watched these folks just go on and on and on. Y'all, do we have Ben Crump? Okay, sorry. So we don't have Ben Crump yet. I do want to get him on and talk about this here.
Can I say something very quickly on this?
Rob, go ahead.
Say that if you don't have qualified immunity, I don't think you have much of a bill. Like, I don't understand. So I think Democrats need to make Republicans explain why is it okay for officers to have no accountability when they do things like kill people when they don't have any right to. Why are you defending that? Make them defend that. Because there has to be some substance to what we pass. We don't want to pass something just to look like we're appeasing people. We need to pass something to change things structurally, period. Otherwise, we're wasting our time.
And here's the other deal. Let's be real honest. Politics is politics. If you're the Democrats, you're watching a situation where you may very well take over the Senate after November. Guess what? You can wait to get a better bill. Happens all the time. Ben Crump joins us right now. Ben Crump, of course, civil rights attorney, represents the family of George Floyd. Ben, you have been talking to people on both sides. You've looked at this. From your perspective, which is a stronger bill? The Democrat version in the House or what Senator Tim Scott proposed in the Senate?
It's not even close, Roland. The bill presented by the House of Representatives is much stronger. It gives us the systematic reform in the culture and the behavior of policing in America that we have been asking for decades, Roland. Even before Trayvon Martin, we've been working on these type cases saying what we need is accountability from the police department, and that happens with the House of Representatives. It does not happen with this Republican bill from the Senate.
And so, look, Dems passed their bill. Now the Senate doesn't have, they could take it up. They may not. Has Mitch McConnell, first of all, has Majority Leader McConnell talked to any of these family members? Has he gotten their perspective in terms of moving forward?
Not that I'm aware of at all. I know they have not talked to George Floyd's family. They haven't talked to Breonna Taylor's family. And Roland, I believe that their bill actually supports the police funding more than it does anything about trying to bring accountability to these situations. And that's the problem. The Republicans are still not going to the crux of the matter, which is accountability for those people who keep killing us unnecessarily, unjustifiably, and senselessly.
Well, and that really was a problem for me where, I'm sorry, I don't think everything always has to be, oh, get the cops more money to do what's right. No, damn it, do what's right. I shouldn't have to incentivize a cop not to kill people with chokeholds.
Exactly, Roland. And they don't even ban the chokeholds when you look at the Republican, proposal. They just try to encourage or disincentivize people not to do chokeholds. And since George Floyd case, Roland, our law firm has been retained by 3 families who loved ones have died for being restrained by police officers in chokeholds for longer than George Floyd's 8 minutes and 46 seconds, being Joel Escobedo in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Derek Scott in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and now this brother Lopez, who is in Tucson, Arizona, who was for 11 minutes being strangled by the police, and he asked for a cup of water 3 times, Roland. The Republican bill would do nothing to address those issues.
All right, Ben Crump, we certainly appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much.
I appreciate you, Roland.
All right, folks, next let's talk about DC Statehood. Today, for the first time ever, the U.S. House passed a bill to make Washington, D.C. the 51st state. Folks, 700,000 people in the District of Columbia pay taxes but have no representation in Congress. This was the debate on the floor today.
treatment that this body gives to those that live in the territories. I believe it's the greatest scam and an okey-doke that you have allowed us not to pay taxes and hold that against us to ask for our equal treatment. So keep paying those taxes, and you will get your statehood one day. The United States territories that I represent is also not on equal footing with the rest of the nation. There's no representation in the U.S. Senate, no equal voting representation in the House of Representatives. Unlike D.C., we cannot vote for president. We know what it's like to be part of the greatest country in the world, but not a full participant, and it feels incomplete. As Americans, we strive to be productive citizens and an asset to the nation. Statehood for D.C. is a matter of fairness that has been slow in coming. This city, built by African Americans with use of forced labor, contributes more in federal taxes per person basis than many states. A punishment to Americans living in the capital, including those working in policy or public service for the good of the nation, to be disenfranchised when they establish a home in the district. This body changed the boundaries in the 1800s to ensure that slave owners could keep their slaves. We have changed the boundaries in the committee to allow for the federal city to still exist and the residents of D.C. to become a state. It's been done by this body before. Don't make it seem like it's something that can't happen again. At this very moment, citizens across this nation are clamoring for change, equality, and justice. With one vote, we can deliver that for the people of D.C. It is time to do what's right and allow the people of the city to feel whole, to feel complete, to feel like they matter. Support H.R. 51.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the distinguished delegate congressperson from Washington, D.C. for her steadfast leadership on this. I had the opportunity to work with her predecessor back in the late 1980s in this chamber, Delegate Walter Fauntroy, who passed the torch, and Delegate, you have just done a great job. It took 27 years to get this vote back onto the floor. And I was there in 1993 when we came up short. And today I'm hoping and praying that this bill passes. I want to congratulate you on that and to remind others that this is not going to go away. Because at the end of the day, this is really about taxation without representation. One of the original 27 colonial grievances filed against the king, which was a major cause of the Revolutionary War. And so when people in Boston had the Tea Party and threw tea in the Boston Harbor in December of 1773, they were making a statement and setting an example for people across this nation to understand that we just can't tax people without allowing them to be represented. And you've heard the great discussions, the cogent points about the fiscal side of this, that D.C. residents pay more taxes per capita than any other state, that they pay more general taxes than 22 states, that they have a budget here larger than 11 states, and a bond rating better than almost 30 other states. But I've heard this discussion when it comes to fiscal matters about the constitutional federation of states, the great words of Hamilton and the Federalists and the Federalist Papers. I understand that. But one thing we have to remember when we raise Hamilton and we talk about the Federalists is that their stated belief was the Constitution was meant to evolve, that it was a living document. That's not my impression. That's the impression, the opinion of the Federalists. And so if that were not true, I could not be here as a descendant of a slave without the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment.
Gentleman's time's expired.
The distinguished woman couldn't be here. She had not the right to vote under the Federalist Papers.
Gentleman's time has expired, please.
And Alaska and Hawaii, when I were born, were not.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I realize that, sir.
I want to give all acknowledgement to the outstanding gentlelady Eleanor Holmes Norton. President Washington said, "The Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon." Nothing in the Constitution says that we cannot make the Washington state the Douglas Commonwealth Frederick Douglass said, there is no power without struggle. The sons and daughters of Washington, D.C. laid down their life for this country in world wars. They stand for this country in service to this government. Why are we denying them their right? Alaska has 700,000 plus people. There is no population requirement.
Gentlewoman's time has
Make
expired.
Washington, D.C. a state now.
Now, the measure passed in the U.S. House. It will go to the Senate. Now, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's already said he won't even bring it to the Senate to a floor vote. Yet, there was discussion on the Senate floor vote about D.C. getting statehood. And if y'all want to hear one of the most absolute racist, bigoted, discriminatory speeches ever, listen to this ass, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who argues that Wyoming has a much more broad cultural interest to be a state than Washington, D.C. The same Wyoming that has 200,000 fewer people than Washington, D.C. The same Wyoming that is 93% white. He complains that, D.C., they will guarantee 2 Democratic senators. Well, how many Republicans are senators in Wyoming? 2. Listen to this racist talk.
Most of Washington was under the control not of the federal government, but of a left-wing politician like Muriel Bowser, who frequently takes the side of rioters against law enforcement. Would you trust Mayor Bowser to keep Washington safe if she were given the powers of a governor? Would you trust Marion Barry? More important, should we risk the safety of our capital on such a gamble? Now, of course, the Democrats will argue that the statehood bill doesn't entirely eliminate federal control of Washington because it preserves a small federal district that encompasses the White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, the National Mall, and a few other government buildings. What a humbling demotion from the grand federal city that President Washington and Pierre L'Enfant envisioned more than 200 years ago, which they hoped would rival Paris in size and ambition. By contrast, look at this ridiculous map. Look at it. The Democrats propose to turn Washington into little more than a gerrymandered government theme park, surrounded on all sides by a new state, controlled, of course, by the Democrats. The federal government's safety and independence cannot be assured by such a laughable district. Again, look at it. It's got 90 sides. A mere city block, less than 200 yards, separates the White House from the proposed boundaries of a new state, governed at present by a politician who hates the president. The Supreme Court and several congressional office buildings are right at the edge of the map, separated from the new Democratic state by the width of a single city street. In the event of an emergency like the Philadelphia Mutiny of 1783, those narrow boundaries could jeopardize the operations of the federal government. Consider also what's not included in this ridiculous new map of a new Washington, D.C. The headquarters of the Department of Homeland Security would be outside the federal government's control, as would be the headquarters of the FBI and the FCC, which governs all communications.
Now, y'all see that little racist little rant there? Ooh, Muriel Bowser. And what if Marion Barry was the governor? He does know that you've had governors that have gone to prison in states. Rob Blagojevich in Illinois, prison. Governor Ryan, prison. Governor Edwards in Louisiana, prison. In West Virginia, they impeached the entire state Supreme Court. So you see the nonsense? That, and I'm going to go to you, Derek, first, because you're a Republican. Okay. You're a Republican. That was absolute racist by Tom Cotton.
Well, I would say
black people. Oh, we can't trust these black people to govern.
Okay.
Oh no.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
I did not like the comment about my man Marion Barry. Okay, because he is the people's mayor. Always has been. He's done a lot for people in D.C., including giving jobs to my wife and a bunch of other friends. But the thing about it is, man, you know, if you look at what they've been talking about DC statehood, it's been an issue forever. Okay, and according to a Gallup poll of 2019, last year, 2/3 of Americans said no to D.C. being a state. And the bigger issue is, you know, D.C. has 700,000 people. Puerto Rico has 3 million people. Where's the outrage for Puerto Rico being a state? And I think it becomes more of a political issue right now.
Wait, hold on.
I think it becomes more of a political issue right now.
Wait a minute.
What?
Hold on. I'm going to let you finish, but I want to put a pin in it, and I want that Puerto Rico point.
Yeah. What about it?
How did Puerto Rico become a territory?
I don't know. You tell me. You must have an answer.
Oh, I got an answer. Mark Thompson joins us. Mark or Rob or Teresa, one of y'all.
Mark Thompson?
Now, here's why I'm saying this, because Washington, D.C. is actually within the United States. Puerto Rico actually was a prize that we captured. Mark Thompson, you've gotten arrested a whole lot for statehood. You heard what Derek just said. I'm gonna let Derek finish, but the Puerto Rico point, Mark, explain why that's an illogical point.
I thought which part do I get to finish, or are you gonna let Mark go?
No. I want Mark to speak on how the Puerto Rico point is made is illogical. Then it'll come back to you to finish. Mark, go ahead.
Well, I want to be sure what he's saying. Is he saying that Puerto Rico is more deserving?
Well, he's saying there are 3 million in Puerto Rico and just 700,000 in D.C., but it's only 500,000 in Wyoming.
He's trying to get you to chase a rabbit.
Not what I said.
Mark, go ahead.
That's not what I said.
So here's the thing, and thank you, Roland, and thank you for showing all those clips. Here's the thing about Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has a right to its own self-determination. And I know at one time, Puerto Ricans voted, they had a choice between independence and statehood. And I think there was a slight majority in favor of independence in terms of being their own country. So, you know, I don't think we should make that decision on behalf of Puerto Rico. If people of Puerto Rico want to be an independent nation or they want to be a state, that's up to them. As far as DC statehood is concerned, this is the Washington, D.C. is the only national capital in the world. And we're talking about countries, the United States holds responsible for human rights violations and lack of democracy. Even those nations, their national capitals have representation in their national legislature or parliament. It's only D.C. that doesn't. It has always been because of racism. And just to be fair, in 1993, we organized the original Tea Party. This Tea Party, Republican Tea Party that came in under Obama, that's a whole nother thing. We dumped tea on the Capitol steps every Thursday and committed civil disobedience every Thursday for months throughout the summer of 93 to get the first ever vote for DC statehood in 1993. The Speaker of the House at that time was Tom Foley. 58 Democrats voted no. And I'm sure that the Democratic Party has to look back on that history and realize what a mistake that was. Because if DC had been admitted into the Union in 1993, think about how many things that have happened in the past 27 years that would have been prevented with 2 more Democrats in the Senate with the 51st state. Speaker Pelosi said something very interesting on yesterday, and I'd actually forgotten this. Her father, before there was even a mayor, her father as a member of Congress was the chair of the district committee, which, as you know, Roland, oversaw everything in the District of Columbia for decades. In fact, her father was, his nickname was the mayor of D.C., and he ultimately was the mayor of Baltimore, too. But he oversaw the budget. Congress controlled Washington, D.C. So what Tom Cotton is talking about is absurd. Congress will have control over what is known as the federal enclave or the National Capital Service area, where residents do not live. But the rest of that would be named after Frederick Douglass. And finally, there would be no taxation without representation, ending that colonial relationship. More people have gone to war and given their lives in the U.S. military than many states per capita in Washington, D.C., and there are more taxes paid per capita than many other states. So it's absurd. It's a miscarriage of justice. And lastly, just let me say that we've got to talk about justice in the fullest sense. So there's justice in policing. Some folk want to do Juneteenth, and that's fine, even though a lot of folk never heard about Juneteenth until last week. But reparations and DC statehood have to be a part of that conversation, and we got to stop being afraid to bring it up. We have to stop just pushing issues that we think are acceptable and palatable to white folks and white media only.
All right, Derek, go ahead.
No, Mark, good seeing you. Great points. But I would just ask, what about the size and how the district would have to be reshaped in terms of national security and that kind of thing and protecting it? And then how would it be possible to have, federal agencies like the FBI, FCC, and Homeland Security, which he did point out, outside of district lines? I mean, and Mark, maybe you can even speak to this. Some say that Homeland Security was actually put out of those district lines for this purpose. But I'm just trying to figure out, well, how does it work?
Rob, hold on, wait. Hold on, Rob. Here's what I don't understand. There's an FBI office in Houston.
Well, there are
federal agencies located.
So that makes it right.
Let me say it again. Hold on. There are federal agencies located in every major city in America. Ain't nobody trying to figure out how do they operate. Hold on, Derek, you can't ask for everybody else stop talking when you talking if you talking when everybody else talking. Rob, go.
This is real simple, Derek. Roland's already explained it, but in any place, anywhere, we have federal buildings, and the federal government still has control. That is made up. They're just trying to use ways to scare people. You know that has nothing to do with anything. So that no control would change, making Washington D.C. a state. Let me just say that it's real interesting listening to Tom Cotton though, and hear him talk about the things that he was mentioning there. You can always know, particularly what my friends on the other side talk about gerrymandering. To even talk about gerrymandering is a concept for at least since the 1980s Republicans have mastered. And they've been doing it for a long time. I'm going to give you one example if you want one, Derek. Paul Weyrich. You can look him up. He's the founder of the conservative movement.
Let Rob finish.
Wait, he is the founder of the whole conservative party movement recently in the last 30 or 40 years. He didn't want everybody to vote. It is on tape. Roland can find it. He said, I want to make sure, because democracies aren't won by those who participate. It's not won by the majority of the people, but those that are able to participate. So the strategy of what they're doing in Kentucky, what they're doing now, what they've been doing for years is figuring out ways to disempower citizens. And so I think that's anti-democratic. And the fact that a party would make that part of their objective just shows you that they don't believe in the people. They just want to preserve their power. And so I don't understand the argument of why a whole state that pays that much in taxes shouldn't have a right to be that territory shouldn't have a right to be a state. And if Puerto Rico wants to, let them join. I'm not against democracy. If they want to come in, let them come in. These are all distractions. They just don't want to give the power to the people, and they should have the power, period. I believe in democracy. I believe in people. I don't know why Republicans don't sometimes.
I want to pull in Teresa right here. Teresa, the reason I find Tom Cotton's comments to be absolutely hilarious. How many states right now have 2 Republicans? Multiple. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh my God, there will be 2 Democratic senators from a Washington, D.C. state. There are 2 Republicans. He kept going back to Wyoming and how he said how Wyoming has much more work much more working class. I love the little language. It's 93% white. That's what Tom Cotton really is saying. Wyoming is white, DC will be black.
So part of that is the other piece that I heard was that Mayor Bowser doesn't like the president, right? And so right there for me, it was kind of like, okay, all right, thank you for your talking points. I love that this whole thing is scripted. But as we kind of talk about what the territory and who is pretty much going to be running those areas, I'm in agreement with you, Roland. I do believe that this is another ploy on the Republican Party to say that African Americans, cannot govern, in its totality, such of a large a state, if there was one. Look what they've done so far. They put Black Lives Matter sprayed in yellow on the streets, and what else would they do? In so many words. So I think, if I'm in agreement, if Puerto Rico wants to become a state, great. I'm sure there'll be people behind it, but it seems like, with their 3 million people that they have, they are very comfortable with, again, this is just seeing it because there hasn't been anything that's been put up, but they seem like they're very comfortable with receiving some of the benefits of being a part of the U.S. So if DC has been pushing this for 27 years, it is fine time that, yes, they become a state and they get the representation they need, because there could be more things that could happen that'll be in their benefit. And I think it just needs to be a little bit more viewed as it relates to some of the practices and policies that are happening in a larger scope with other, not only just, the seasoned elected officials, but maybe some of the new generation to start taking a look at some of those policies and seeing what can be done.
Now, here's what I find to be real funny, y'all. Here's the deal, and I just counted. There are 18 states in the union right now with 2 Democratic senators. Derek, there are 22 states with 2 Republican senators. Y'all, I'm going to go through it. Go to my iPad. You'll see it right here. Alaska, 2 Republicans. You see the 2 red lines. You go Arkansas, 2 Republicans. You go Florida, 2 Republicans. Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana. Then we go Mississippi, Missouri. Then I go to Nebraska. Let me go down to North Carolina, North Dakota. Let's go to Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas. Let me go right on down to and Wyoming. So, Derek, I don't want to hear that bullshit from Tom Cotton. Oh, there are going to be 2 Democratic senators. When right now, out of the 40 of the 50 states, only 10 have split delegations. Sit the hell down.
Look, I live outside of the district right here now. And so I go back to the issue that the one point I was trying to say before. They can't even protect the borders now. Now you're talking about making how many? 96 different borders, 96 different sides. And the other thing is, like, I go back to this too. 2/3 of Americans already said in the Gallup poll that they were against it.
Stop. Hold up, Derek. Who gives a damn? Derek, who gives a damn what the other Americans have to say who aren't paying taxes? Those 2/3 other Americans have representation.
Well, happen though.
Derek. Those other Americans have representation. So it's real easy when you have a member of Congress who gets to vote. It's real easy when you have 2 U.S. senators to say, oh, no, you shouldn't have it. Again, There are 700,000 citizens in the District of Columbia. 200,000 more than Wyoming. So why in the hell? Wait, let me finish. Why in the hell should Wyoming get 2 U.S. senators as a member of Congress, but D.C. can't?
and Idaho and lots of other states you can name. But go ahead.
I was just going to ask, won't it have to go through having an amendment for this to happen? Doesn't that have to go? Doesn't have to have a constitutional amendment for this to happen?
Mark Thompson, go right ahead.
It already went to the Supreme Court a few years ago, or probably about 15 years ago. And the ruling is that this is a political matter. It is not a judicial matter. You don't need a constitutional amendment or anything. That's already been reviewed. So all of that is just stuff to hold this up. This is, any state can be admitted into the union via a simple majority of the legislature. And to your point about the agencies and the different government buildings, as Roland said, there are federal agencies in every single state in the union, and it has no impact on the running of that state. As a matter of fact, and this was one of the problems in DC, when a federal agency takes up land in a state, the federal government makes a federal payment to that state to offset the loss of taxes and property for their presence. And so for 200 years, DC was not getting even a fair federal payment for the federal presence as other states were. And so this will also correct that injustice. So no, all of those arguments are ridiculous. The real resistance to this, and you heard him mention Marion Barry, Congress never wanted black power in DC.
Right. And this is bipartisan. I want to just say this point. We got to say this because
two black senators. Let me finish.
Wait, Mark, go ahead.
Two black senators. The fear of both of those senators being Democratic, and who knows what might happen in the future. But even the argument, really, this is 2020. I'm surprised that we're having a conversation about safety and security. That was one of the silly arguments that the founders had and why they moved to D.C. in the first place from Philadelphia and New York, because they didn't want to be besieged by other states. That's over and done with. That's a 200-year-old argument as well. This is 2020.
Got it. All right, Rob, final comment. Final comment, Rob.
Really quick on this. You know, Republicans play chess and Democrats play checkers. Democrats should have done this when they had the votes. If this is the first time we've done this, okay, this is all great when you can't get it passed. But if we ever get the votes, and we will at some point, I want to see this come up and actually have the courage of our convictions and then pass these things when you have the power.
Got it. Mark Thompson, make it plain. I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. God bless you all.
All right, folks. Today, for the first time in 2 months, Dr. Fauci reappears, as well as Dr. Birx talking about coronavirus. Why? Because we're seeing a spike in the country. This is Dr. Fauci today speaking before the cameras.
Such an unusual situation because of all of the decades that I've been involved in chasing infectious diseases. I've never seen anything that is so protean in its ability to make people sick or not. There's no other infectious disease that goes from 40% of the people having no symptoms to some having mild symptoms, to some having severe, some requiring staying at home for weeks, some going to the hospital, some getting intensive care, some getting intubated, some getting ventilated, and some dying. So that depending on where you are in that spectrum, you have a different attitude to this particular thing. But anyone who gets infected or is at risk of getting infected, to a greater or less degree, is part of the dynamic process of the outbreak. And I know, because I can understand when I was at a stage in my life when I said, well, I'm invulnerable, so I'm going to take a risk. I think what we're missing in this is something that we've never faced before, is that a risk for you is not just isolated to you. Because if you get infected, you are part, innocently or inadvertently, of propagating the dynamic process of a pandemic. Because the chances are that if you get infected, that you're going to infect someone else. And although you may feel well, and because we know, if you look at the numbers that you'll probably hear later on, the overwhelming majority now of people getting infected are young people, likely the people that you see in the clips and in the paper who are out in crowds enjoying themselves, understandably. No blame there, understandably. But the thing that you really need to realize that when you do that, you are part of a process. So if you get infected, you will infect someone else who clearly will infect someone else. We know that happens because the reproduction element of the virus is not less than one. So people are infecting other people. And then ultimately you will infect someone who's vulnerable. Now that may be somebody's grandmother, grandfather, uncle who's on chemotherapy, aunt who's on radiation or chemotherapy, or a child who has leukemia.
The Department of Justice is actually arguing that the Affordable Care Act should be struck down before the Supreme Court. Yeah, filed it late yesterday. Now, again, here we are right now in the United States. 2,374,282 cases of COVID-19. 37,667 new cases. Y'all, 692 new deaths. Really? Really? Now we get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Dr. George Benjamin, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association. Doc, first of all, what the hell was Mike Pence talking about? Oh, how everything is reopening. The governor of Texas, my native state, literally said, shut all bars down, reduce capacity of restaurants, and said, y'all stay at home if you have to.
Yeah, he was spinning nonsense. You've got a very bad epidemic running through the South. And as you know, they're just pretending like it's not going on. It's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen.
Well, and again, what you have is Mike Pence and Donald Trump are in denial because they are scared to death of losing. And so they're hell-bent on reopen the country. But you see what happened in Texas. They did it prematurely. The governor ignored the mayors, ignored the county judges. And now all of a sudden, after opening it, now you got to shut it down because cases are spiking. Hospital beds are filling up.
You know, the challenge is, I think that there were many of the public health experts told them this would happen. You delay the preventive measures that we had, and then you rapidly open up too soon. This is what happens when you do that. And, you know, you open up the bars, and then now you got to close them back down again. They closed them abruptly today because, you know, people were congregating in those bars. And then they're surprised that lots of young people are getting infected.
Right.
And Roland, as you said, on top of that, then they want to take the health insurance coverage away for the people that need it in America. And by the way, all of us will be impacted for it. A lot of people don't really understand that every person in America is impacted by the Affordable Care Acts if we lose it.
I mean, it's amazing how callous these people are. And really, they refuse to listen to doctors, and they're hell-bent on the stock market. It's just we don't care, open stuff up. And what I keep saying, people are actually dying from this. And now, if you talk about half of the new cases are young folks, let their lungs all of a sudden start exploding and then see what happens.
Well, you know, the loss of the Affordable Care Act means that you can no longer carry your child onto age 26 on your policy. So young people will lose their insurance coverage as well. You know, it's a terrible thing to do. And look, the really fascinating thing for me is the fact that the state of Texas is one of the lead litigants to try to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And the governor of Texas is now saying, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe we need the Affordable Care Act, as well as many Republican members of Congress who were actually against the Affordable Care Act are now sending letters saying, well, maybe we ought to not get rid of it.
Yeah, that's what happens when you stuck on stupid. Simple as that. Dr. George Benjamin, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association. We appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Roland, thank you very much.
Rob, these people have no damn sense whatsoever. I mean, they're really idiotic.
Yeah, they really are. And this, the resurgence of the coronavirus was not only predictable, it was predicted. Like, we follow data. I believe in science. They told you this was going to happen, but everybody wanted to reopen the states because they were following the prophets. They were following the idiocy of the present occupant of the White House. Just because he said it was a sham, we got to go along with this stupid stuff. And then the only problem with that, I would be okay with stupid, but other people are dying because of their stupidity. And so us as people, we have to take our own government back right now because we have idiots leading us. We have assholes leading us, and it's causing real significant damage. And none of this is funny anymore. So, yes, so this is predictable. You have Texas talking about shutting down bars. They shouldn't have opened them in the first place. Now they're ironically causing more economic damage on the back end if they would have just done it right on the front end. Follow the science, follow the facts, get politics out of it, and actually look out for people's lives. But that's just too much to ask, I guess.
Teresa, and not only that, you have the hearing, you have the news conference today, and you got everybody else wearing a mask. Pence like, damn, I'm not wearing a mask. That's how. And now you have the doctor saying, hey, could all y'all please wear your mask?
It's bad because when you have a highly skilled doctor and Dr. Fauci, where people believe him, it's like you're just disobeying the doctor's orders on purpose, right? And now you're passing it down to the citizens of the states. And so, I'm not surprised. I saw this 3-month confinement for most, and it literally was unbearable, right? So when the first protest happened and people were just unleashing their masks and raising their voices, I said, we are going backwards. The numbers and the data that we were able to achieve are now going in the tanks. And then what happened? Then we started to reopen, which began with the new phases, right? And so when the phases happened, that's when the dining happened. And when you're doing outside dining, the masses are off in its entirety, right? So it doesn't matter how close you are. Nobody was paying attention to rules. No social distancing was happening. The protests, the looting, all these are factors that, again, all happened if everybody was responsible. But again, it really comes to our leadership. So if our leadership is not doing what the doctor prescribed us to do in order to get out of this effectively, then we are at a lost hope.
And look, bottom line is, Derek, all the good that came actually out of the lockdown, they're about to squander it.
Agreed. But I would say that all of it don't go back to the administration, because there were standards put in place by the CDC that the states were to follow, and that control in terms of opening up the states was by the governor's call. Because right here in Maryland, we opened up until months after other places. And so now I think it's going to be left up to the states to handle at this point. Just like, as you said, your state, your home state, Texas, shut everything down.
Yeah,
I think a lot of other states, unfortunately, going to shut things down too.
But Derek, I got to put the blame on the federal government, because like right now, the federal government is about to pull out of federal testing facilities in Texas while the numbers are going up. That's stupid.
Roland, I can't speak on that. As we more testing, obviously numbers are going to go up.
I think it's stupid.
But at the same time, if I can finish my point, it's the state. They gave control of the states. They had a guide. There were guides that they had to follow. 2 weeks without the numbers going up, and most of the states, that's what they hit. Those were the guidelines. Those were the measures that were put in place. Those were the metrics, and they hit that. So the states started reopening. And so now we're faced, because of, like I said, mostly young people out protesting, unfortunately, with what happened. That's why we're seeing these. These people hanging out in these bars.
Well,
the
that's actually not been true.
Mike hanging out in the
data has not
all
shown
right, Rob, 20 seconds, real quick, go.
Yeah, very quickly. The leadership sets the culture. At the very beginning, he said this was a hoax. He didn't take it seriously. He should have said a national response, because it required a national response. Instead, he just gave away leadership and took no accountability. So this is what you get when you have no leader.
Look, bottom line is you just got trifling people. Hey, PPP, still a big issue. Congress's watchdog arm call on the Trump administration to step up efforts to police the government's massive small business rescue program after finding a significant risk of fraud and resistance to oversight at the agency running the bailout. The Government Accountability Office targeted the Small Business Administration in a sweeping new report looking at how agencies have used $2.6 trillion in economic relief funds appropriated in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was determined in the report that the $670 billion Paycheck Protection Program, which offers small business loans that can be forgiven in exchange for maintaining payroll, had limited safeguards and insufficient guidance and oversight planning, all of which have increased the likelihood that borrowers may misuse or improperly receive loans. This is what happens, Derek, when you rush something out and you just want to put the money out there. I mean, look, we've even seen, I think they said $1 billion in checks were mailed to dead people?
No, I agree with you right there, bro. It was a rush to put the money out there because they wanted to get it out there to the public and thinking that was the right thing to do. But damn, they should have put some type of oversight in place so that this type of stuff didn't happen. And you're right, a lot of big businesses, a lot of white corporations benefited from this stuff. Now, some are giving it back, but for the most part, they're not. And it's unfortunate because now I was on a call today with the White House African American surgeons, okay, and they were giving an update on different things, and PPP was one of them. Now, there's still a lot of money still sitting there for minority businesses to go and get.
Right.
But the banks and everything, they've got to open up lending practices, and apparently they've met with a lot of the black-owned banks here in the country, every last one of them apparently, and trying to extend those opportunities to some of these black businesses so they can get these loans.
I want to bring in.
So there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money out there still to be made for black businesses, but it's unfortunate what happened with the oversight.
I want to bring in Elfrida Robinson. She's president and CEO of the National Bar Association. Elfrida, glad to have you on the show. So what is the NBA saying to ensure there are protections when it comes to that these dollars are not being misused and misappropriated?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. We have a very active task force, which I established as soon as COVID hit. And part of what that task force is doing is we're monitoring it. Obviously shocked by the report by GAO that there was all these.
Elfrida, hold tight one second. Having some issues with your shot. If y'all go ahead and work that out. I want to go to Rob here. Rob, again, bottom line is this $2.6 trillion.
Yeah,
it's a whole lot of damn money.
Really fast.
That's a lot of money. And then, of course, you had Steve Mnuchin, who initially said, "Oh no, we're not going to tell y'all who we gave that $600 billion to."
Yeah.
What the hell is that about?
That's about Trump being Trump and the Congress not having enough conviction and really fighting. So look, they act surprised when Trump said, "I'm not gonna follow the rules. I'm not gonna listen to you." They should have put that in the bill on the front end. And then when it goes to African American businesses, how the PPP was designed to not actually allow you to account for independent contractors and things like that, which most African American businesses have.
Right.
That automatically took us out of it too. So it should have been a stronger bill on the front end.
Yeah, like in my case, I mean, look, we got $38,000 in PPP loan, but I only have 4 full-time employees. The other 6 people are 1099s, Teresa.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the PPP could have done more than what it's done. I have friends who practically, outside of the PPP, friends still haven't even received the stimulus check, even if they were coming back from reentry, because the oversight and the criteria that was being met on some of these when it was time for them to cut the checks or put the account number, something was going on in the Treasury Department where they're just like if the government released some of the individuals coming home from for COVID-19, then they were supposed to get a stimulus check regardless. But apparently there's issues that is going on with the Treasury Department that, they're basically still checkboxing that they're still incarcerated when clearly they're home. And so there's issues like this that's happening over there. There's issues happening with the PPP. And it doesn't bring satisfaction to not only the minority businesses like mine. I wish I got almost $10,000, right? But like you, we have 1099s, and then we have the employees, and then they're doing some other factors, and then they're doing credit checks.
Got it.
And so the credit checks are also a big function of why minority businesses can't get loans today. So yes, if I think there should have been a 2-week, maybe a month, but no, probably 2 weeks is enough, where there really was some strategy that was thought out about when there's a pandemic, what do we need to do to protect small businesses and lay it out, not lay it out afterwards, lay it out in the beginning. And so I hope when this report is finally finished, that they can have a clear and concise report that is due, so we can, if this happens in the future or if this extends more than what we think it does,
got it.
That we know how to plan for the future.
Elfrida, well, we have you back again. So what is the NBA saying should be done to make sure?
The NBA has, yes. What we've done is we've actually done 4 webinars about how to apply, how to reapply, how to get around all of these problems. And our lawyers and those who have been on the webinar were given very specific instructions and what banks still had money and how to work with your community banks, and have had success with that. And we're going to repeat that instruction during our convention, which is coming up in July and before. We're looking forward to these reports that are supposed to be due July 1st. But here's what's important. There is an oversight committee, which is chaired in the House by none other than the Majority Whip Clyburn. And what we've seen today with the GAO reports, we're going to see and should have reports from the at least 9 inspectors generals that were stood up to do the investigation of where the money was going and to whom and in what amount. All of this should be there. It's supposed to be July 1st. Now, the NBA, we're watching this. We've got experts. We've got our committee chaired by co-chaired by one of our past presidents, Vanita Banks. We stay on this 24 hours a day. And so we are keeping in touch with all of this. We have accountants who's also lawyers among our members, and we are ready to follow this and demand, and hopefully the members of Congress will invite me to testify. We are producing a report and are ready to support small businesses, which is the lifeblood of not only America, but our communities. So if you all need assistance, then we ask that you let us know, and we can, again, help with these, with doing, again, these COVID-19 webinars. We've done many of them, and we are sure that if we are continuing to work, we are drilling down on the legislation because we've studied it for months now, and we will go to the House of Representatives, and we will demand that we get reports from these special inspector generals who are paying out of this stimulus money, so that we won't just go away and be without remedies, because our members as well are small businesses, and they have been successful with the process of applying for these small business loans, which, remember, this was so that you could keep your employees employed. But also, there are ways of also accounting for your independent contractors. So just stay tuned. And
all right.
We're here. Those who need to reach us, go to nba.org. And be sure we can help you through this process with the webinars, which we offer for free.
All right. Alfreda Robinson, President, CEO, National Bar Association. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about several different things. First of all, could that Confederate emblem be coming off a Mississippi flag? We'll talk with actress Aunjanue Ellis right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Also, we'll talk about Republicans dropping more ads. Republicans who don't like Trump, man, they are hitting him hard with these various ads. We're going to talk about that next on the show as well. Plus, we'll also be joined by Terry Ellis of En Vogue. She has a new song out tied to the movement happening in the streets. All of that coming up next to Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, we want you to support Roland Martin Unfiltered by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. We want to get another 1,600 people to move us to 10,000. We have had an unbelievable last 2 months. We thank all of you for your support. We certainly appreciate it. And so here's the deal. Your dollars actually go to support this show and what we do. Give me a wide shot, Henry. And so I'll give you this here. When you look at this desk made by a black-owned company, we're about to install entirely new lighting system here as well. Another black-owned company we're talking with. That's who's going to be installing that. We're about to make a lot of changes to our control room. Thank you to all of you who gave to allow us to acquire that LU Smart app, which we can now then be able to send that app to various people. And in fact, the other day with the Breonna Taylor protest that took place in Frankfort, Kentucky, we were able to actually reach the folks there to live stream that rally. Man, what was awesome, 185,000 views of that particular rally on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube. And so trust me, you are a participant in helping us build this. And so there are ways for you to give. You can pull it up. You can go to Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, paypal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. You can give right there on YouTube as well. There are right now 4,477 of you on YouTube. You can give there as well. Plus, you can send a money order or cashier's check to New Vision Media Inc. New Vision NU Vision Media Inc. 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006 20006. You can give right there as well. Here are the folks who've given $50 or more. I told you, you get $50 or more, you get a personal shout out from me. So Ahmad Whitaker, Akila Young, Alicia Russi, Alicia DaCosta, Andre Stevens, Andrew Williams, Antonio Sampson, Atir, Bonita Sheffield, Duffield, Benjamin Williams, Bernard McKeever, Benta Campbell, Bonita Stewart, Bradley Farr, Brandon W., Brendan Jackson, Calandria Williams, Calvin Ray Stiggers, Carla Nichols, Carmen Smith, Carolyn Reams, Carolyn West, Cecilia Newcomb, Chantel Nelson, Christiana Williams, Christopher Allen, Christopher Orange, Crystal Mackle, Cynthia Leaks, Cyril Mays, Daisy McDonald, Dewan Thickpen, Danny Robinson, Darian Felder, David, Dawn Young, Deanne, Deborah Daniels, Denise Harrington, Denise Haynes, Deanna Patterson, Diana Franklin, Dominique Scott, Donald Collier, Doris Blake, Dr. John Codwell, Duncan Sawyer, Dwayne Sales, Eddie Baggs, Ikemi Howard, Elma Foster, Eric Woodard, Eric Gore, Eugene Crawford Jr., Farah, Faria Law Group, Flora Martin, Floyd Smith, Francois Varin, Frank Tucker, Freddie Sidbury, Gloria Carter, Golda T. Fried, Grace Folletti, Grace Nabasabala, Gracie Burks, Gregory Horsley, Heather Griffin, Ings Technology Solutions, Jadonna Sanders, Jane Byard, Jason Jigster, John Dorsey Sr., Johnny Finney, Joy Griffin, Gilletta Martin, and Karen. Again, folks, all of you who contribute $50 or more, you get a personal shout out from me right here on the show as well. And so we certainly appreciate all of y'all who support the show. Those of you who are watching right now, like I said, you can give right there on YouTube. We got some amazing things lined up over the next few months that we want to be able to do for you. And that's why this is all about us having a platform that speaks to our issues, our concerns, and not having to sit here as anybody's opinion. We get to cover the issues that we want to cover. All right, folks, in Mississippi, they are closer to actually getting rid of the Confederate emblem on the state flag. Folks, yesterday, actually all week, business leaders, coaches of the state's football teams have been descending on the state capitol saying it's time to get that emblem off of the state flag. The governor of Mississippi now realizes the votes are not there. I got a text earlier from somebody who's in Mississippi who told me that they believe they now have the votes to actually overturn it. Now, what the governor's been trying to do is he wants the citizens to vote on that. Remember, they had a referendum a couple of years ago, and 64% of the people in Mississippi said keep that flag. And so the governor wants the voters to vote, but the legislature is under major pressure from the business community because they're realizing they're about to lose a whole bunch of money if that thing stays on. The SEC has already said no championships in Mississippi if that flag still stands. The NCAA, same thing as well. Joining us right now is actress Aunjanue Ellis. She has been a strong advocate against this flag, speaking out against it. Aunjanue, again, it's not a done deal, but the legislature apparently says they'd have the votes to actually vote to remove that emblem from the state flag.
That's what I'm hearing too.
You've been fighting this thing. You were here in DC a few years ago. We covered it. Y'all had a rally on the U.S. Capitol. You've been out here raising hell. Obviously, you don't celebrate until it's actually done. That flag comes down. But looks like the murder of George Floyd, again, is changing something else in America.
Yes. 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 I mean, and first of all, I just want to say that it makes me so angry that we had to lose Mr. Floyd, that Mr. Floyd's family had to lose him, that Breonna Taylor had to be lost, had to be killed for us to come to this place. And Mr. Floyd, George, had to be killed in such a brutal way. And we all witnessed it, and there was just, it has brought us to this moment of reckoning. And I'm so thankful to George Floyd's family. I'm so thankful to George Floyd in his absence. I'm so thankful to him, but I would take it back, just to have him back with his daughter, Gianna. And I just think that it's infuriating that these moments have to happen for us to suddenly find a conscience. The SEC suddenly finds a conscience. The NCAA suddenly finds a conscience. The Conference USA suddenly finds a conscience because of the way that George Floyd was tortured and killed. And it's a shame. It's just a shame that has to happen.
The governor desperately wants to avoid this. He wants the voters to vote on it. But you have some legislators who are under enormous pressure. I mean, Mississippi has gotten hit with economic sanctions before. This is different. And I think not only economic sanctions, when that brother from Ole Miss said, I ain't going to play football, no. Exactly. Them white folks are scared these black ball players are not going to take the field or the court.
Exactly. And I mean, Kylan Hill, his name is Kylan Hill, and he's a hero. He is a hero. He is a hero. He's a Mississippi. He's a running back from Mississippi State. And we did a rally at the SEC a few years ago in the rain. I wasn't able to go, but I put the money in to send folks from Mississippi to Alabama to the SEC headquarters, and they was out there, and we got filmed. They ended up on television and everything. But we didn't even get a response from the SEC. But now all of a sudden, like I said, they have a conscience. And I've been saying this, the reason why we sent them buses over there to the SEC, because we knew that. We knew that Mississippi ain't got but a couple of economies that are viable. And one of them is the chicken plants, and the other one, two of them. It's the chicken plants, it's the church, and it's football. If they lose football, the injury that would be done to the economy in Starkville and Oxford, which is where Mississippi State and Ole Miss are, they would never recover from that. And think about it. All of this stuff is in question because of the virus now. And then you're gonna add on to that the likelihood that there would be no football at all. That's untenable. That is untenable for the state. And let me add this. So this idea of the Southern Baptist Convention, after all of this pressure, we've been writing to them, and folks been saying stuff to them, and they have finally said that the flag must come down. So the two most viable economies in the state of Mississippi, football and church, have finally said enough is enough, and the flag must come down. And the pressure is too strong. But even with all that pressure, Tate Reeves is on some, I'm so torn, who's the governor, I'm so torn, I don't know what to do, and I'm praying about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. They were supposed to vote today at 3:00, and they adjourned for some reason. So they're stalling. But they said they're going to go back. They're going to go back at 10 o'clock tomorrow. The fact is, we just got to we have to keep the pressure on. The pressure has to be kept on these folks, or they could do the same thing they did in 2001. The thing is racism outnumbers us in Mississippi. Racism outnumbers us, and that's why Tate Reeves wants to put it up for a vote, because he knows that. He knows that if he puts it up for a vote, it is the flag will remain the same, because racism outnumbers us in Mississippi, period.
Well, we will be watching this. Apparently, I got a text saying there will be a vote tomorrow, a Saturday.
10 o'clock.
We'll see if that actually happens. If this legislature finally gets some guts to get that Confederate emblem off the flag. But the last point here, and we've had these very discussions before. There are black people, and I'm seeing some of the comments, who are saying, look, taking that emblem off that flag, not gonna change a damn thing. That look right there is the response. How do you how do you respond to them?
2 words. No, I got 4 of them actually. Dylan Roof, Heather Heyer. And I don't need to say anymore. I don't need to say all the other names, but those are the names that they should remember, because that has happened in the last few years. When Dylan Roof went into Mother Emanuel AME Church in South Carolina and killed and massacred those black people after he prayed with them, we found pictures of Dylan Roof waving the Confederate flag. When Heather Heyer was mowed down in the streets of Virginia, she had Confederate flags flying all around her. That flag is not just a symbol, it is an instruction to terrorize American citizens. Hands down, point blank, full stop. And so what I know is that this idea that, it's not going to change anything. No, it's not going to change anything, because you can't dismantle Confederate culture by taking down the Confederate flag. That the work of dismantling Confederate culture is hundreds of years in the making. That's why it was so hard for us to come to this moment, because you're not taking down the flag. You are dismantling a culture. But the idea that these folks who were the architects of this culture would have to surrender themselves to another kind of vision is significant. It matters. And then we can start having really productive conversations about how the Confederate culture affects our lives. One is voting rights, workers' rights. And here's the other thing when I talk about when folks say, oh, it don't matter, it does matter. Because people will walk, I'm talking about the everydayness of the flag. The everydayness of the flag is the fact that it is another kind of segregation. It's another kind of segregation. If you come to Mississippi and you go to see a store or something like that, and they got a flag, they got that flag hanging out there, you go, I'm not going in that store. If you go to a restaurant, they got a flag hanging out, you go, I'm not going in that restaurant. If you go down a road and the first thing you see on the end of that road, I'm telling you because I'm living that life in Mississippi, if you see that flag at the end of that road, you're not going to go down that road. So what it does is white people don't have to say we're segregationists here. What they do is they put that flag there and you know not to go there. The other thing is a couple years ago, I think this happened in 2018, if not 2016. There was a man who showed up in the Delta, North Mississippi or the Delta, at a voting booth with a Confederate flag on his shirt and a noose
Yep, I remember.
So yes, exactly. So when people saw, what you think people thought? What do you think a voter who walks in a place and sees this white man with a Confederate flag and a noose on his chest? What do you think they think? I'm not scared of that. I don't have a reason to be afraid of that. And let me tell you this, but beyond whether you're afraid or not, he's telling you that you need to be afraid. He's telling you that you need to reconsider voting that day. That is what he is telling you. That is what that message is. That's what that message tells you, that black people are not welcome here. You are not wanted here. It is another form of segregation. That's what it is. I'm gonna say this right quick because I know you got other folks to talk to, but I think this is the next step in this. That flag is going to come down. That's going to happen. The next step is, what is that? What is the flag that is going to replace it? That's the one thing. And already these segregationists are trying to chime in and say what the flag ought to look like, right? You have this, there's this Stennis flag that is now called the hospitality flag, that was designed by Lauren Stennis, who is the granddaughter of Senator John Stennis. John Stennis was almost a congressman for life from Mississippi. He was a Democrat. And besides being a segregationist and a signer of the Southern Manifesto, which decried public integration, beside all of that, in this moment of talking about torture of black men, John Stennis prosecuted a case in Mississippi in the 30s. And in that case, 3 men who were accused of killing a white farmer. Those men were tortured. They were stripped of their clothing and beaten with leather straps on their backs. That's terrible. But one of them was strung up by a noose repeatedly until he told the police what they wanted to hear. Repeatedly hung by a noose. So what does that mean? They strung him up by his neck. Right before he died, they take him down. And then they will tell us what we want to hear. He didn't tell them what they wanted to hear because he would have lied if he did. And then they strung him up again. And they strung him up again. He did that. They did that to that man repeatedly. The confession was the only evidence that they had in that case. The only evidence. And John Stennis knew it. The crime, the case was so heinous that the United States Supreme Court in Brown versus Mississippi, not Brown versus Board of Education, Brown versus Mississippi, overturned that case. The United States Supreme Court in the 30s said, you know what, you wrong for that. You wrong for doing that. That's who John Stennis is. And so his family wants to put his name on the next flag of the state of Mississippi. We cannot allow that to happen. One more thing, and I'm going to let you go. Here's the thing. What's going to happen in Mississippi, hopefully, Jesus, this weekend, is a display of ovaries that the United States Congress does not have. Because we would not be having this conversation about the Confederate flag if the United States Congress would ban the flag nationwide in the first place. Why is it legal to fly that flag in the first place? The United States Marine Corps, even before George Floyd died, banned that flag months ago. NASCAR has banned the flag, the public display of the flag. Why isn't Congress involved? Why hasn't Congress said, okay, now it's time for us to ban that flag? And that's the next step in this. Organizations like PEN America and the ACLU, who have stood back and allowed domestic terrorism for American citizens and hiding behind this idea of free speech, need to be the first people to call Nancy Pelosi on Monday morning and say, okay, our bad. It's time for this flag to come down everywhere, everywhere.
All right, then. Aunjanue Ellis, always a pleasure. I appreciate it, darling.
I'm sorry, I talked a lot, didn't I?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I appreciate it. Well, I got your kinfolk, who not your kinfolk, Terry Ellis, coming up next. And she has her new song called Angry Woman that's dedicated to, of course, this movement. So you might want to check that out.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Aunjanue, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Roland, for always standing up for us. Thank you. Bye.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Real quick to our panel. Look, interesting point there, Teresa. She says Congress should ban that Confederate flag. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I mean, the passion behind the flag, but really it's the motion of the history of what it stands for, right? And I think, she's spot on, because if once we take down the Confederate flag, the next question is, what are we putting up, right? And those discussions need to happen now, I believe, in tandem while we're asking for the takedown. Because if we start my thought process is if we start removing the Confederate flag and then we start if we have individuals who's just like, well, since you won't get the flag that has that, maybe we can put a name that represents the same thing as the flag. It's pretty much the same exact thing, right? It's the same exact problem that's not having a solution. So Congress absolutely need to do what they do for the people, and they need to ban the flag. That is the next protest that needs to happen. That is the next subject matter. That is the next reform. But I do think people are making their voices clear locally with the organizations, the groups. They are telling their elected officials that enough is enough.
Right.
And, they want better.
Derek, should Congress ban the Confederate flag in America?
Yes, absolutely. And I think somebody needs to introduce that. It's unfortunate that, that Mississippi running back that Aunjanue talked about, Kylan Hill, he's the Heisman Trophy candidate. So when he stood up, he brought a lot of attention to this issue, in addition to what she's been doing. And it's unfortunate because right now, Mississippi is the only state that still has the Confederate flag, the entire Confederate flag attire. And the question is, what you guys were just saying, what are they going to put up there instead? And because even now there's 5 other states that ban the Confederate flag, but they still have, unfortunately, the symbols from it, like the X and the stars. Arkansas has stars. Georgia has the X. A couple other states. So I'm all for banning all elements, all of the attire from the Confederate flag. It needs to go because it represents so much. I would say it points to the whole South lost cause myth that endorses the supposed, virtues of Southern way of life that a lot of white people still live by in the South.
Yep. I got you. Rob?
Yep, it endorses white supremacy. So what you can't have is state-sanctioned violence, saying the state, like, this is okay for us to represent this. Like, and when I hear black folks, anybody say, well, we shouldn't worry about it. Can you imagine Jewish folks saying it would be okay for you to hang Nazism up there? No, of course not. It's the same thing. This was started. We know that Confederate flags were brought back to intimidate black people post-Reconstruction, to put us in our place, to make sure they put white superiority back. And these were traitors of the country. Like, I don't understand the argument in this. These people lost the war. They were traitors. They have no place there. The flag shouldn't be there, and it's there just to preserve white superiority for some people. But you know what? Just like reparations, other people would rather light their own money on fire than to give reparations to black people. And I think some people feel the same way about the flag. They might just burn up the state than actually get rid of the Confederate flag. But we got to keep fighting because this is about basic humanity. People have to respect us. This is just the beginning. Then we have to have a real conversation about what happened in this country, and it should be a reminder everywhere in this country, just like it is in Germany when they talk about the Holocaust.
All right, folks. All right. A lot of people out there in the streets, they are protesting. Well, first of all, let me do this here. Let me thank the panel. I want to thank y'all, Teresa, Derek, and Rob. Thanks a bunch. Derek, get your damn Wi-Fi fixed.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because today's my birthday. Maybe that's what it is.
No, maybe it's because
actually my daughter and my birthday.
Maybe because Omegas don't know how to work the damn video.
It could be that too.
You need some kappas and maybe a few alphas to help you. Who knows?
Now, the alphas can help. Don't even try that. I mean, don't. Let's be real.
We got some smart dudes too.
But I mean, that's all what happens when you get that. That's also what happens when you get that cricket ass Wi-Fi.
Oh, blame it on Verizon then.
Yeah, for an hour and 45 minutes, we've been seeing a damn photo up there. Everybody else got video.
My bad. It's a good looking picture though.
Yeah, and the control room says sound like his ass in the closet.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
But I will say this, Roland, and without kissing up, you have a very, very nice set. I would encourage people to help out to even improve what you're doing.
Well, we try to have a top flight show, except for people who got ragged ass Skype who can't log
Give you
on.
a compliment and see what you come.
No, I mean, I'm just pointing out. I mean, I appreciate that, but it'd be nice if all three panelists are actually on video. This is not a radio show.
Connection.
This is not an audio. This is not an audio podcast. Our shit work. You see Teresa and Rob.
Everybody else working, man.
Everybody else working. It's only one person with a still photo. You.
I don't know. I'm going to do some research on what happened.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Roland.
All right, y'all. So y'all hear the show. A lot of y'all love our theme song. Y'all go get it ready to play. Get it ready to play. So let me tell you what actually happened. So when the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened, Terry Ellis and Cindy Heron, they said, we got a gift for you. Now, I was like, okay, I thought they were about to give me like an iPhone or something. And then they told me, they said, so I'm going to take it back. So when we did News One Now on TV One, I asked several people who I know, could they give me a sample or something of a theme song for the show? I didn't want that boring ass news music they did. So Kirk Whalum did something, and Cindy and Terry did something. But TV One shows, they were like, oh, they didn't want to. They went to that boring ass news music. And so Cindy and Terry said, because of all the work that I do in terms of empowering our people, they wanted to gift me this song. So when y'all go ahead and play it, this is Cindy Heron and Terry Ellis of In Vogue. They are responsible for the intro.
Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
And I got to shout out producer Slick as well. He did that. And so Terry Ellis joins us right now. What up, Terry?
Hey!
My
I know
home.
you were talking about me earlier, too.
Huh?
You know I'm not tech savvy.
I know. Lord have mercy. I was sitting here. I was like, hopefully she'll get on before the show ends. Lord have mercy. That's what happens when you go to Worthing.
You know I wasn't going to let you down.
That's what happens when you go to Worthing.
See, you wrong. You wrong.
What?
You going to go there, right?
What? At Jack Yates, we had the School of Communications.
That's what you say.
No.
That's what you say.
You know, I'm just saying, I ain't going to take a shot at the Prairie View. I don't want the PV people mad at me. But glad to have you on. So all the protests out there, and you have dropped a new song that really speaks to it. Y'all go ahead and play it. Y'all have it? Y'all don't have it? Okay, fine. I got it. All right. See, let me go ahead and play it on my end. All right, y'all. The song is called Angry Woman. Check it out.
United States, the construct of racism was created specifically to oppress black people, to try to suppress our determination to achieve liberation. Like Angela Davis said, it's built into the system.
Nowadays I can't believe what's going on in front of me. I don't want to watch TV and find another casualty. I don't want to read the news. My heart's already black and blue. I'm putting on my combat boots, 'cause I got an attitude. We're like soldiers forced to fight a war. What the hell? I can't take it anymore. 'Cause for so long we've been patient, now we're done. And don't you even ask me, when did I become such an angry black woman?
Was it anything in particular where you said, "Yo, I gotta get this out"?
Well, I don't know if you know or not, but this song was written and recorded literally 4 years ago. The first incident that we heard of, one of our brothers saying they couldn't breathe, was Eric Garner. I was working on some music at the time, and I wanted something that spoke loud and strong to what we as Black people have been feeling for over 400 years now. And we always get the title Angry Black Woman, but no one asks us why we're angry. And so, at the time, it was a culmination of everything that was going on at the time. And I wanted to give a voice to how I was feeling and how so many of us as Black people and Black women are feeling. I'm having these conversations on a daily basis with my friends, and I'm sitting at home. I'm dealing with the COVID and trying to follow the protocols to stay healthy and safe. But I got to sit at home and watch on television my brothers and sisters being murdered by police brutality. It's senseless. It's unconscionable, and I wanted to speak about it. I just wanted to give a voice to it.
And obviously, many artists are being moved by this. Trey Songz dropped a song. The Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks, dropped a song as well. And BB Winan sent me a song the other day that he's releasing this week as well. And you released this on Juneteenth for a reason.
Well, that actually wasn't necessarily intentional. However, when I think about what I was feeling and wanting to express how I was feeling, I wanted to free myself of the anguish that I was feeling when I think about our history and when I think about what we're going through now. So Juneteenth was actually a very appropriate time, because when we were told that we were free. I mean, even just thinking about that, someone telling us that we're free. Really? We're talking about human beings here. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a God-given right. Who are you to tell me I'm free?
You also, it's titled Angry Black Woman. And you like, look, I ain't trying to sit here and be kumbaya with this thing.
Absolutely not. And here's the thing. As a human being, we go through a range of emotions. And when you're not comfortable, when you are not feeling good, you're not feeling well, you're not feeling good about things happening in life as a human being, you're either going to be feeling, and there's a range of them. I'm not going to call all of them, but there's a range of them. When you're feeling hopeless, despair, anguish, heartbroken, hurt, duped, bamboozled, your intellect is being challenged. Anger is the best emotion to reach for because it's on the road to your self-empowerment. I want my power back. I don't want to continue to sit and feel hopeless and feel like I can't do anything about what I'm feeling, about what I'm seeing. I don't want to sit and continue to bask in despair and feel heartbroken. I want to do something about it. I want to express it.
You have a lot of sisters out there who are actually protesting, who are marching, many of them leading as well. And so I'm sure Tamika Mallory or some other sisters out there would really appreciate this song here, because they're making it clear. They said, no, we pissed off. We're angry. We need some stuff to change.
Yeah, and we have every right to be, every reason to be. We're not just fighting for civil rights. We're fighting for human rights.
Absolutely. Well, Terry, it is a great song. We certainly enjoy it. Angry Woman, people can get it. I would assume on all music platforms. They can stream it as well.
Right.
And so it's always good to see you, my girl.
Thank you. I love you.
And I love you as well. And I certainly appreciate support. And for all y'all out there, not only did Cindy and Terry give us the song, they're also members of the Bring the Funk fan club. They sent one of the first checks before we even launched the show. Just want y'all to know that. And so they certainly support this show. So we appreciate all that you do. Thanks a bunch, love.
We got you. God bless.
Thanks a lot, bunch, darling. Folks, the song Angry Woman, y'all be sure to get it, download it, and support Terry Ellis. Got to go to a break. We come back. Comedian Dulo is here. And y'all, he's launching a major deal. It's pretty cool. So we're going to last. We'll talk about this new deal he's doing. Next, the Roland Martin Unfiltered.
We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them, as they slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God.
Those who are lost now, their legacy must be our lives.
I can hear you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us
soon. Amazing grace.
I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers. We dominate the streets.
I won't traffic in fear and division. I won't fan the flames of hate.
It's time to pick up our heads. Remember who we are. This is the United States of America.
Now, y'all, Joe Biden dropped that last ad last month targeting Donald Trump. The ad said 96,000 people died. Folks, that number is now 125,000. There's 29,000 folks have died in this country due to coronavirus. You saw the video there of Donald Trump going to play golf. Well, guess what? He was supposed to go play golf this weekend at his golf course in New Jersey, but canceled that trip because clearly his advisor said, it's going to look real stupid of you going out there playing golf while these cases are spiking all across the country. These online ads have been real powerful. We've been playing a lot of them targeting Trump. And trust me, folks, it's having an effect. Republicans are running scared. They are now saying that it is Joe Biden's race to lose. But let me go ahead and be real clear with y'all. I want y'all to ignore every single one of these polls. I don't give a damn about any poll that says Joe Biden is leading by 12 points. I don't care about the polls saying he's leading in North Carolina, leading in Texas, leading in Michigan, leading in Pennsylvania, leading in Wisconsin. It does not matter. The way to beat Donald Trump and to put all these Republicans who are his enablers, we got to target people. We got to educate them. We got to register folks to vote. We got to mobilize and we got to organize. What did my man say in the movie Remember the Titans? Herman, leave no doubt. I'm not interested in a close race in November. Leave no doubt. Crush Donald Trump. That's what should happen in November. So if any of your friends get excited, oh, it's in the bag, you slap the hell out of them and tell them, no, it's not. That man has appointed 200 federal judges, right-wing judges, many of them who do not believe in civil rights, who do not believe in anything when it comes to our issues. And the bottom line is this here, we cannot allow another 4 years of this level of ignorance that we're seeing from this administration. It's time for them to go. Hashtag fire Trump in November. All right, folks, have not been able to reach Dulo, so we're going to go ahead and close the show out. I want to thank all of you for watching the show today. Again, more than 4,000 of you on YouTube, more than 1,000 of you on Facebook. We appreciate it. Y'all have been so supportive of the show. Don't forget, join our Bring the Funk fan club. We need you to do what we do, folks. Cash App, pull it up, $ right there, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, Venmo. And, of course, you can send a cashier's check to New Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 20006. Folks, we got some great things coming up. I got an announcement next week. It's pretty big. Can't wait to tell y'all. Enjoy the weekend. Have fun with your family. Be safe. Wash your hands. Carry your hand sanitizer. Please wear your mask. Stop playing games with this. Young black folks all around this country, especially in Atlanta, in Miami, in these places, stop congregating in these groups. Practice social distancing. Half of all new coronavirus cases are people 40 and under. This is no joke. It's impacting us. Let's be sure to save ourselves. Black voters matter. Y'all know what that means. We got to go.